Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 255 review. This is a normal 2-week sprint, and let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Gilbert on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. As you can see, this is a pretty typical sprint with 125 PRs merged this sprint. Quite a bit of other, which was mostly dependency updates and a few other blast outs from the previous sprint. And over to Gilbert on the UI.
Thanks, Jason. So for the UI, I split up into UI Classic and UI Service. For the UI Classic, I updated jQuery to 3.7.1. Jason updated the npm audit exclude packages to include the updated packages that we have. I updated Lodash to 4.7.21 on Morphe, and Jason excluded Bootstrap Sass from the Yarn audits. For the UI service, the dependabot bumped the Nanoid from 337 to 338, and then I also updated the post CSS package. That's it for the UI. Next is Adam.
Thanks, Gilbert. For Amazon this sprint, we dropped an unused blacklisted events method from the network manager. The Amazon Network Manager had its event catcher removed and merged into the Cloud Manager years ago, so this was completely unused and we were able to get it deleted. For Google this sprint, Nasser fixed an exception if a VM didn't have a disk. So we check that the disks array is nil before continuing to parse, so we can catch that. For HMC, Jay Carmen fixed event parsing, regular expression causing missing LPAR UUID to not be found, causing the targeted refresh to not be done properly. Next slide. For OpenStack, we had to pin the GitHub Actions runner to 2404 specifically so that we could pull in a newer version of Cupid Proton. Now that Ubuntu latest is 2404, we're able to go back to using that more generic runner name. For Overt, we moved the default filtered event names to settings out of a hard-coded method so that it's able to be overridden by the user. And for VMware, we fixed the filtered event names not being filtered by the vSphere event catcher. This was an oversight when we moved to the pure Ruby event catcher, and so some of the more common events were not being filtered out. And also fixed the bug with vCloud and Tanzu inheriting the vSphere filtered event names based on how the core method was using the vendor as opposed to the EMS type. Next slide. And also this sprint, we forked the Ruby RPM FFI gem as it was something we were looking to use for Smart State, but was not being updated by its core maintainer. So we did some quality of life upgrades and brought it up to some of the newer systems. So it'll work on EL7, 8, and 9 now. We renamed the gem to RPM2, but backwards compatibility will still work if you had existing code using it. And we updated tests to run on GitHub Actions as they were previously on Travis. And there's a new release of 0.1.0, which will include all of these updates. And that is it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements this sprint, Jason updated the CI security suite for NPM to sort by severity. Additionally, he also included the GitHub security advisory number when sorting by the NPM excludes. Jason added Ruby 3.4 support to Optimist. Also in Optimist, he dropped Ruby's less than 2.7 and JRuby 9.3, and he added JRuby 9.4. In PG logical replication, I added support for Ruby 3.2 and newer, and I also dropped Ruby's 2.5 through 2.7. In the bot, Jason updated a bunch of dependencies, including Rails 617.10. Jason updated Yarn in core to 4.6.0, and he also added a default renovate.json in the plugin generator. Next slide. For platform bugs this sprint, Brandon reverted the pod's GitHub CI to no longer run with Ubuntu 2404 and to go back to latest, as the former didn't support bind mounting volumes. Brandon also removed the hard-coded toolchain version from pods, as we can use the Go version. Next, Jason and I resolved some issues in several repositories with the new concurrent Ruby 1.3.5, which no longer required Logger. This revealed a bug in active support where it was using Logger but not requiring it. We got around this by either requiring Logger ourselves or locking to a version before 1.3.5. Next, Jason bumped the ManageIQ style version. This resolves an issue with the dependency on a RexML that had a CVE exposure. Jason bumped more core extensions to 4.5.1 as a minimum in Linux admin. Next, Adam fixed an edge case in the server startup code to ensure that wait for started workers could complete and not timeout. And finally, Jason added breaking ignores for Ruby 3.1 and Rails 7.0. Next slide.
And that's all for our Sprint 255 review. Our next Sprint review 256 will be on February 19th at the usual place and time. And I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all the contributors, and our community. Thanks, everyone.